I think it's important for our students to be good global citizens because we're living in an ever interconnected world. We have students whose education certainly goes beyond the bounds of not only our region and our country, but certainly even beyond the continent. We have connections in ways that previous generations never really experienced. We have the technological manifestations, we have these intercultural experiences. We have people who are not only traveling, but who are having to think in profoundly different ways than perhaps previous generations have had to do in terms of this global centeredness. And I think it's so important at higher ed to be able to instill that so that they're learning the nature of global thinking in a very holistic experience. I think the process of applying for any student has its challenges, which obviously is sort of part of the experience. I think one of the things that we've had, and I've tried to do, and certainly Dr. Walton has made her mark on here, is creating an environment between faculty and students where there's the support and the atmosphere to engage each other in the process of mentor and mentee. Because if you have faculty that are committed and engaged to not only helping just student success, but really fostering that fundamental enthusiasm and curiosity, then the students will respond to that. And so if you have the students aware from the get-go as to what the process is, the fact that it's an ongoing intellectual dialogue between the application experience and the student's own sort of frame of mind, and then you're working with them in that many-staged process, you're nurturing something that is, again, building up to not just when you submit the application, but by that point the student is already thinking differently about the kind of student and even the kind of person that they want to be. So it is working on the application, but in a way it's also getting a whole different sort of sense of self in terms of what they want to do beyond. So I think that when you have students who are experiencing not only the application process, but then going to institutions and to locations through the Bourne, through the critical language scholarships, through foreign area studies fellowship or other related scholarship programs, they're getting both the academic but also the cultural experience where they're fully integrated into the lifestyle. And so when you have a student who's going to learn language, obviously they're going to learn the language, they're going to be immersed, but they're getting social and cultural and even institutional knowledge by living in a different place, communicating with different kinds of people, and ultimately I think that builds in the broader holistic sort of experience of making them a more well-rounded person. Working with students at such an early period through now, you see their personal, their emotional, their intellectual development, and when they do get these awards, it's so rewarding because you have a hand in that experience, and in a way it takes at least me back to when I was a student, because I had a similar experience of someone who was working with me and going through the editing process and the framing and rewriting and then rewriting again and then having doubts and then rewriting again and again, and so that was a tremendous experience as both a mentor and just someone who remembers going through the process. You provide intellectual mentorship in the sense of helping them with their style of writing, their articulation, but in the end, I feel like it's sort of very similar to being a teacher in that you're trying to facilitate to people this enthusiasm and this awareness that what they do here matters in the broader world, and you try to sort of connect their little sparks into sort of a coherent plan of action.